Spencer, can you play music? And I accidentally said that unmuted. Hello, everybody. You got to listen to me tell Spencer to play the music. Welcome to DM Writer's Room. This is a show here on Foolhardy Press where we demystify the DMing process by coming up with monsters, magic items, equipment, dungeons, and adventures live. Now, right now, you are catching us towards the beginning, tentatively. I think it's the... Oh, no. Wait. Get out of here, jockey. You are catching us towards the beginning of coming up with a hack for Blades in the Dark. So if you don't know what that is, Blades in the Dark is a pretty popular RPG by Evil Hat Productions or Studios. I can't remember which sort of addendum they use. Where you play a group of criminals in a haunted city trying to make their way. When you make a hack of a game like that, you basically come up with an alternate set of rules that are very heavily based on the original game. Now, this is something that you might be pretty used to. D&D famously has D20 or Roll20 Fantasy, which is basically a hack. And most famously, the game Morkborg, which is a sort of hyper-violent OSR game, has tons of these. It has Pirate Borg, and it has... Hunter Borg is one that we were working on, and there's Cyborg is another that's very, very popular. What we're doing is we're taking a look at what we are tentatively calling Tales in the Dark. Something born sort of Spencer's idea. Spencer's on the bottom here on YouTube. I don't know where he is on Twitch. He's in the sky.
He's on bottom.
Hey, there we go. You're the anchor. You hold us down with this idea. So that is the sort of like horror trope of watching these kind of multiple groups moving towards the same goal with the knowledge that maybe they are not as well fated across the board, right? One or two of them might do a little better. One or two of them might do a little more poorly.
Everyone say hello to Bobicus.
Hello.
What up, Bobicus?
He says, I am here now. Tremble, you fools.
Nice.
We may be fools, but we shall not tremble.
Yeah, I can't. I don't have the time to tremble. I'm too busy saying things about our king. So from there, basically what it's going to be is much like in Blades in the Dark, where you create a sort of group of criminals that you are going to be controlling. In this game, you are making a team of people. I think so far we've been narrating it as hunting some foul monster, taking down Dracula. This is the A squad, right? This is the, I can't remember, the real estate guy and Nina Harker and Von Helsing and Quincy Morris. These are the big dogs. And then you have the B team, people that are like getting up to important things, but a little bit disconnected. I'm thinking of like Seward being like, I'm gonna find records, and like running off to go do his thing. They're researching, they're gathering information, but maybe not sort of the most central. And then there is the C team. The C team are ill-fated friends and allies that will almost certainly die just to cue up how dangerous Dracula is, but they might succeed to some small degree, and in so doing, nudge the story in a better direction. Now, you hopefully have gone back and watched some of the other DM Writers Room episodes, and so you will be familiar with the loose shape of the things that we have changed thus far between this game and Blades in the Dark, which mostly has to do with when the A team, B team, and C team will be used. So most of the time you play the A team. Every now and again you cut to the B team to basically do some version of what in Blades in the Dark is called a devil's bargain. You get a bonus in exchange for a little extra elbow grease. And then finally we have the C team, who steps in to prevent death, dismemberment, or otherwise failing the adventure. You run a very quick C team adventure. We're talking literally like under 30 minutes. And if they succeed, you, to any capacity, you will save whatever character is in mortal danger. If they absolutely and completely fail, ill tidings. They are an omen of what is to come. Outside of that, we only have a couple of key concepts. We know we want to replace stress with hope, and that running out of hope can leave a character in a state of despair, where they are more likely to fail. We know that we really like progress clocks as one of the central tenets of this. And we also know that we really want one of the C-Team upgrades to be Inspiring Death. The A-Team gains hope when this character dies, which I think is extremely funny. One of the classic things that people say about Blades in the Dark is play your character like a stolen car. And I think that things like that, making it so that the C team dying off might benefit the A team, is a really good way to encourage people to drive these characters like a stolen car, to veer into oncoming traffic for a smaller chance at victory. So, knowing that we are making a sort of riff on Blades in the Dark, today we are moving from making rules and thinking about the sort of larger logistics to taking a more detailed look at the actual hunters that you will be playing as and the kinds of groups that they can be a part of. Now, up front, I do have a question that we've never actually nailed down, which is really surprising given sort of how far along we are. My first initial question is this a monster hunting TTRPG or just a, like, suspenseful storytelling RPG? We never really pinned down if we were are we playing hunters or are we playing survivors?
I think you're playing survivors.
Okay.
You inevitably will hunt the threat, but that is not your profession. You know, the Van Helsing crew, one of them happens to know about hunting, but the rest of them just end up doing it.
So this is a way to so definitively then we are putting our stake in action horror. That is where our game is situated.
That's the best way.
Okay, I think that's great. So then I think today we have a choice. We can either start by coming up with some sort of hunter archetypes, survivor archetypes, or we can start by coming up with some team archetypes. Do we have any kind of lean there in either direction? I would say we definitely want less than, I would say like 10 or 12 of each, because this is a game that you're supposed to be able to like pick up and get going very quickly. We don't want to give them like 20 options. That's going to be very confusing and sort of hard to pick from. Better to keep it a little more narrow. So which of those two are we kind of leaning towards?
Let's do group first.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes more sense.
Big to small will be good.
I have an unrelated comment, a little non sequitur. I got a drink for the session sitting in front of me, and I'm a big, if you know this is a very like 2004 Almond Mom thing, but you know those like drink packets? I am eternally a drink packet devotee, and the store had ocean water, like that, which is, for those of you who might know, is that Sonic that usually does that?
Yeah, Sonic. It's Sonic with
this
their
is the most
Route
upsettingly
66s.
blue drink I've ever seen in my life. What is this? How do you get this color? Where does this come from? There's a bug. You have to like grind up a bug to get this level of blue,
shocking.
right?
I gotta be real. The second most shocking thing: no ice. No ice in the bev is a surprise.
Actually, this is a terrible, horrible reality of my life. I had to wash our ice thing today. It is sitting in the drying rack. I didn't even know that was something you ever had to do. I dumped the ice out and for the first time took like a good look at the ice tray and I was like, no! And so I spent a little too long scrubbing that. All right, let's
straight from Foolhardy Press to you.
Yeah, this is just a little free. Listen, this is a personality show a little bit. We got to be honest about what's going on.
At least 10%.
If we're airing out our dirty freezers,
dirty ice trays.
I don't own an ice tray. I can't make ice.
Well, yes, you can.
And now for mine, I have an ice maker in my fridge.
Get out of here.
Please.
Get out of here.
So
we can't all be wealthy.
Yeah, I could
Jeff
make
Bezos over here with his ice maker. No, yeah. All right. Let's hop on.
Man.
This non sequitur was way more than I thought it was going to be. I looked at my drink and I was like, what is happening? This is not natural. All right. So we're working on different groups of teams here. I think definitely less than 10. I think probably I like to stick to dice numbers so that if the group can't decide, they can roll. I think 4 is too few, and I think that 6 is probably too few. So I would say, I was going to say 6 or 8.
I think let's start with 6. And if we feel like we've got enough options, we can bump that up to 8.
All right. I will start with team then.
I will say Bobicus. Firstly, he said, Blades, I love Blades. He also said, my ice tray is immaculate, you slob monsters.
There you go.
Whoa, mine's also immaculate.
In my defense, I swear on a stack of important books that I thought it was. Gun to my head, I would be like, it was perfectly clean the last time I filled it. So hopefully something happened. My significant other often bakes for a flower shop in the area, and so I'm hoping that the Valentine's Day rush is what ended up with some detritus in it. Because otherwise, the other reality sucks too bad. I won't accept it. All right, so we're looking at different kinds of teams. So I think we should start with the most basic. We should just pull from the inspiration. What would you call the Dracula team? Are they hunters? What is that group of survivors called?
I don't want hunters. I think it'd be fun with a really unique name.
I actually could not understand what you just said.
For that specific archetype. I was going to say, I think there can be survivors and there can be hunters. Those can be two different groups where it's the opposite ends of each other. What Michael's saying, or what somebody was saying, was that it should have its own title. That crew type shouldn't just be designated hunters. I'm just trying to bridge the gap between the two comments that were just made.
Yeah, I guess I just don't understand. What do you mean more specific, like a specific name? Because I don't imagine that people are going to play Seward and all of the characters from Dracula. So what would you call that sort of ragtag group committing themselves to, if we break down the real essentials of what's happening in that story and many others, one of them, Mina Harker, is being targeted by a supernatural entity, and the rest of them work together to both save them and kill the monster. That is their a sort of combined goal, which is why, of the horror tropes, I was pitching that I would label them as hunters, because they are the only ones that are chasing their nefarious prey across multiple countries, because that is literally what they do. They chase Dracula around, trying to get in the way. Maybe I would...
Globetrotters.
I could see you arguing for, I was about to say, either saboteurs or, travelers. These are people who are going to have to go very far to do it. I think traveling might be a little bit hard to mechanize in a way that sabotaging the nefarious plan is maybe more what they literally do. But there is definitely this element of pursuit in Dracula. I don't know if there is in Nosferatu. I still haven't seen it. Is there that sense that they are in pursuit of the creature,
I think
constantly?
Calling them pursuers might be more accurate, and I think that it gives us more play than traveler.
So pursuers, you were wronged or have had harm inflicted upon you by the source of your horror, and you will not let it lie. You are always a step behind, always trying to get a step ahead. I think that works really well.
Avengers.
Yeah, definitely
Assemble!
Definitely sort of Avengers adjacent there. So the pursuers then are active participants. Do we like the idea of there being the next step into active pursuit hunters, or do we think that or is that kind of a go play monster of the week?
I think it still works, because inevitably there's still a sense of powerlessness. Even if you are monster hunting, it's you need to rely on your tools and your information, and you're not going to have them, because the Game Master, did we name the Game Master?
Right now it's the Teller of Tales. Or the Tale Teller.
Teller of Tales. The double T is going to end up, pulling those things away. So you're still going to have some lack of power, but you're going to be more well-equipped than, say, the survivors will be.
I like that it's the TT. I think that's pretty good. So are survivors so is it hunters and survivors are the extremes? Survivors are you are barely limping by?
I think that's what I would go with, is the two ends.
Sure. The only thing that I might visualize as being beneath survivors is people trying to get away. Is that even something we're worth sort of talking about? I'm thinking of the people in The Most Dangerous Game. I'm thinking of oh gosh, I don't even know. There's definitely other ones where they're just trying to escape. Final Destination. In Final Destination, it's can we just get away from the threat?
I think we could have that looped in with the survivors, but write it down as an optional if we don't come up with three more. What do you got, Michael?
Oh, I was just going to say, we have a viewer that we haven't seen in a little bit, Hecate.
Hey, what up?
Hi,
Welcome
Hecate.
back.
Yes,
Always happy to
welcome.
see.
We're
all of our
we're
folks.
making a new game.
Now, I actually think, I might be wrong, I do think the last time we had Hecate around consistently, we were doing Spirit and Stone, so maybe this is just their favorite kind of stream. I don't know.
Yeah, we're making a new one, Beyond Spirit and Stone.
All right, so we've got hunters at the very top of, like, they are actively trying to kill the thing. And then we have pursuers. They have some goal that surrounds it. Maybe it won't leave them alone, and they are also pursuing to try to, you know, free themselves or save one of their number. I think that's great. And then all the way down, we have survivors, limping by, trying to escape, do whatever it is they need to do to live with no other goal. Right? And so I think a lot of their abilities are going to be based around literally staying alive, managing to survive another little bit. It's interesting to think of game mechanics where it's like you are at your most lethal backed into a corner. I think it's actually really fun. There's sort of a barbarian element to the survivors where it's like you want to get yourself in a dire situation, kind of like the mundane in Monster of the Week. For those of you who haven't played, Monster of the Week is a 2d6 system that's based on Powered by the Apocalypse, and one of the playbooks is the mundane. It's a monster hunting game, and the mundane's job is to get in trouble, is to get kidnapped, and they get things like they can help other hunters by getting into trouble. They can find a clue by exposing themselves to danger. There is that sort of built-in mechanic. So if we have the hunters and the pursuers, and then we have the survivors, what else do we imagine? And we don't need to place them on a spectrum right away. We can sort of start with tropes that we really enjoy. I also have another really good example. The hunters is the group from Aliens. The survivors is the group from Alien.
Yeah.
That's a perfect bookend. Survivors is like, we're all dying to the one creature. Aliens is you blow up the Claymore mine strapped to your chest and destroy a vent with a bunch of them in it.
I have another one, and I'm trying to think of a name and I can't.
Okay.
It's like the ne'er-do-wells. It's the people who did it. They fucked around and then found out. They made this issue, so they have some knowledge, but they are not monster hunters. This is like, oh no, we've unleashed something terrible into the world. This is like,
Brendan Fraser's
we've
The Mummy.
created a monster. Yeah, the Mummy. So now it's like, now we have to deal with it. So it's reactive, but it's still at least somewhat knowledgeable on the circumstances and situations surrounding it.
It's interesting. It's close to Pursuers, but I do think it is different. I do think there is an element of like, we let this genie out of the bottle, we have to put it back in. Is there I'm coming to like the pilgrim, words like atonement are coming into my mind, right? This is our mess, we have to clean it up. The cleanup squad. Also, you saying ne'er-do-wells, I would like one of these to be whatever the gang of local teens in the Goonies was.
Oh, yeah.
I think should be on the list. One of the playbooks being a coming-of-age story, that full sentence is honestly pretty good.
So good.
But, so somebody who isn't running a stream, Spencer probably, can you hop on like thesaurus.com and get me like, do we have a word for somebody seeking redemption?
Word for someone seeking a redemption.
Somebody that's like really trying. That's where pilgrim is coming to my mind.
Reformed. So reformers. The contrite doesn't really hit.
Now, James has just said the cult of Pandora. The cult being one of them goes crazy.
That's pretty good.
That goes crazy.
Yeah,
the
cult hits.
You know, the cult is kind of a riff on this. Is what have we done? And then they like go to kill their master. Is pretty good.
Then Bobkiss is putting the penitents.
The penitent.
Penitent's pretty
the penitent
good.
Ones.
Penitent.
Do
we have any others that we like?
Yeah, that's rough. I'm just looking back at Colt still. We'll go back and forth between those two because those two are solid.
Sure.
And then we've got the coming of age story.
Yeah, what do we call the like honestly, I don't know if this is my first thought is a very like 1980s term would be to townies. Would be my first would be like, you know, the people from the local town that aren't part of the college, which is where that term comes from, would be one of my first thoughts. But
I would call them like for terminology, I would call them plucky. So if it was the plucky, it would also kind of get the point across.
The first one that pops in my head, something that Zach always says is "Sweet Summer Children."
Yeah, I mean, literally, yeah.
Children,
I think that actually works. You know what's funny is that's a Game of Thrones joke, Sweet Summer Children, but also like Summer Vacation. Like it really does work, kind of in both contexts. Yeah, I'm really not sure. I think we could just say, I don't know, the gang, the squad. I don't know.
You could do the innocent if you're trying to hit it really hard with like the idea of why they're the ones in danger. It's a coming of age story. Stranger Things, all those children are innocent. It's always a metaphor for like, growing up in the horrors of the world. So you could hit some shit like that.
I think so. I'm going to put it right below the penitent. So far I have it as hunters, pursuers, the penitent, the innocent. So it's, we're going to go kill Dracula. And then it's, we're going to hunt this guy down and help our friend. And then it's, oh no. We let him out and now we need to put it back in. And then it's, guys, Johnny fell in the mine. It's good stuff. So again,
Bob can just put one a little further too.
Sure.
On the opposite side, corrupted. Instead of going against the appease.
Yeah, I feel like I always want to have like the villainous option.
Yeah.
It would be more of an asterisk where it's like you aren't fighting the monster, you are aiding them.
I think
I would throw that in as an asterisk.
What I would really think that would be like one of the Kickstarter stretch goals. Right? That's fundamentally what it is, right? You come out with the main game for people who want the heroic fantasy, and then one of your like stretch goals or an additional pamphlet that you start selling a few weeks later as a rules addendum is, and here's how to play a villain if you want to. So just to recap, because I try to do these when we're running these crazy long DM writers room things. So we are working on a Blades in the Dark hack, which you would call a Forged in the Dark game. We are coming up with one about hunting down or outliving or outmaneuvering a monster in a kind of horror setting. We have a couple of different teams of the people trying to survive. As of now, we have the hunters, people actively trying to take down the monster. The pursuers, people trying to get in the monster's way. The penitent, people trying to cage something that they unleashed. The innocent, innocents swept up in the carnage of a monster. And survivors, those just trying to get by. So that puts us at 5. I certainly think we could probably get 3 more if we keep our mind about it, but we only need 1 more to get to a pretty good and functional number.
So what are we missing? Because there's the researchers, which we're covering by the B team archetype. I can't really think of any specific horror movies that are about the researcher. But that's also like sort of the penitent, the ones who need to clean it up because they freed it. So I don't know. Any other major genres?
I'm just mainly trying to think about some of the larger. The only one that I think is left. No, I think we might actually be done. We should try to come up with 1 more, but I was about to say the only other one I can think of is like summer camp slasher movies.
Yeah.
Is because it's not quite the same as just being survivors, right? There was a little bit more action to them. If there is a word for people who it's close to the innocent, but it's a little bit not, right? They're going to resort to violence a little bit sooner. They're going to get drunk on the lake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We got 2 things. Hecate kind of went with the same thing, the corrupted with reverence type, the worship. I think again that goes with the DLC. Bob is playing the Delvers, investigators, like archaeologists that go into understand almost.
So we're actually just about to get to that. You've peered into our minds a little bit. So that is the B team that we talked about in the intro, right? That is what they do. So we are definitely going to be returning. You just made me think of it and then I lost it. I have a way to do cultists or people that worship the monster and still have it make sense. The betrayed. The betrayed. You summon this thing and it discards you. Right, you go through the work, you do the dance, you do the rites. It's a little close to the penitent, but it's a little different. I'm not sure if it's different enough, though. What do you think?
Yeah. Call him the betrayed is fun. That definitely paints a picture.
Yeah, because I think that it is different. Because one had a full knowledge that, like, we are trying to do this thing, and now we want vengeance. The other one is we were trying to do this thing, and now we feel bad and we need to fix it. It's a different spin. It's like an Oath of Vengeance paladin versus one of the other oaths. Similar, not the same.
And we still have a slash next to penitent. We'll probably just look for a word that's a little bit stronger. All right, so that puts us at 6. I can't think of another trope. I cannot think of sort of another group that wouldn't just fall under one of these and be well covered by a playbook, right? One of the only things that I've left in my mind is I'm thinking of like Hellboy, but I think that fundamentally that would be hunters, and one of our playbooks would be some version of, the monstrous or something. When I think of the like classic sci-fi horror, either you can kill the thing or you can't. Maybe you are a group of researchers, but if your A team is researchers, they're survivors, right? They're trying to limp by, trying to make it back to Earth and jettison this stupid thing out into space as soon as they can. I think there's a lot of that sort of already covered. I think we might be best off stopping at 6.
What's fun about what we've done here is we've enforced a group-based subgenre decision, which is a pretty cool thing to do. Because a lot of the times it's totally up to the DM, or it's not enforced via the rules how to get into the subgenre you're focusing on. Like, is this high fantasy? Is this low fantasy? All those things in most TTRPGs aren't necessarily answered. With this, we're saying, no, the team is deciding the subgenre.
Yeah.
You're a pursuer. The subgenre is you're traveling around stopping these things from happening. You're a hunter. You're hunting things actively. Or you're, the teen movie, so you're doing these things. I think it's cool that we've enforced a rules-based decision on that.
And it's one of the strengths of Blades in the Dark and Forged in the Dark games. Is in Forged in the Dark, are you assassins? Are you mercenaries? Are you bravos? Like, what are you? That is a choice that you make. And I think that we are definitely in sort of the same vein in a very real way. All right.
We got some agreements that Hellboy is a very cool idea, the supernatural. We'll definitely have something like that as a playbook.
It is actually one of my favorite series, period, is Hellboy. I love it. I've been trying to get that itch in an RPG, and it can't quite be scratched. I'm not going to mention the name of it. There's 2 recent TTRPG adaptations that are clearly riffing on Hellboy, and I did not like either. One of them I didn't like because it was a little too safe. The other made big promises, and I pre-ordered it, and I got it, and it wasn't even a game. It was like a big improv exercise. It's the most annoyed I've ever been. I don't want to name them because it feels a little petty, but yeah, there's definitely some versions of that I'm like, we really didn't.
We'll just write it on the screen. We just won't say it.
Yeah, go to our Patreon and follow our Patreon. Maybe we can give that as a bonus. This is the game we don't like.
Honestly, that would be a really good idea. Patreon just being your unfiltered opinions about games is hysterical, where it's just that without the extra layer. All right. So
also, we don't have a Patreon. Don't try and find it. Sorry.
Yeah, we don't have one. We will at some point, right?
Eventually, yeah.
Once we have a little bit more build up here. All right. So we've got our teams, and now we're looking at our actual survivors, hunters, characters. I don't know what we want to call these bad boys. Maybe they are just playbooks. Now, I think we should have probably more than 6. If we could shoot for 8, I think that would be great, and I think it's going to be much easier to do that here. I think the first one is pretty obvious. It's guy with a gun. It's man with a gun.
Oh, we can call these archetypes.
Oh,
that's
archetypes, great.
So easy. Guy with the gun being an archetype is hilarious.
I don't think that's what we should title it, but I'm thinking of Brendan Fraser's character from The Mummy. I'm thinking of Quincy Morris from Dracula. I'm thinking of the jock from every single slasher movie. It's the guy with the
American
gun. Indiana Jones.
Honestly, for a tongue-in-cheek name, the American goes kind of crazy. Having, right, the one character that is inevitably... It's enough of a trope that I kind of like one of the playbooks being
we'll put it
the
down.
American.
Because they're brash, they're explosive, they've got guns.
Because the Texan.
Yeah, the Texan, the American, exactly. Same thought.
When outsiders think American, a lot of them think Texan.
You know what I'll do? I'm going to do the American, and in case we decide that's a little too loaded, I'm going to do / the cowboy.
Yeah, the cowboy actually is a great coverage because it implies a lot of
because it's either a literal cowboy or it is the essence of the cowboy, right? All right, who else do we have whipping around here in the A squad?
I would put something akin to the nerd, the book smart, the well-read, something along those lines.
The professor.
Yeah, the professor, the knowledgeable,
I think the professor's really good.
Yeah. The professor hits that primary archetype. And it'd be nice to have that on the team, even if you have a team of researchers below, which you will have.
I think
it's good to have somebody on the main team.
Another really good thing that we're doing is we've said that we really like this idea that somebody on the C team can survive long enough that they end up on the A team, and somebody on the B team could do the same. And I like that we have a pretty natural progression. Somebody from the B team becoming the professor and somebody from the C team becoming the cowboy is like a really good 1-to-1. The next one that I'm looking for is some version of like, the urchin, the street tough, somebody that has that kind of irascible, knowledge, roguish energy to them.
I think that. Good.
No, Bob's got another idea, but we can go after. We can use that after the urchin.
And I have one on my side as well from James,
Nice.
of course. James, as always, is on the squad. All right, so the what is it? Is it the urchin? Is it the prowler?
The urchin. I think the urchin works. I think that it, doesn't hit so specific a time period as some of the other terms we could use.
Is there another? I'm just so. We're actually doing. I'm really enjoying us being able to use things as reference. I'm going to use the mummy again, right? The cowboy is Brendan Fraser's character. The professor is Evie, who's the actor who plays them. I cannot remember their name. And then the urchin is Evie's brother, the guy who's constantly pickpocketing people and stealing stuff. I don't know if he's the urchin. Can I say like the cad? Like the rake?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's almost playing a different archetype.
So you would separate them.
I would separate those out, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. So I'm thinking like the con man, the rake, the something like that.
Yeah.
So
go with the rake for now.
Let's go with, so we have the cowboy, the professor, the urchin, the rake, and then Michael and I both have one to grab from chat. Michael, what's yours?
Yeah, the sensitive.
And we don't promise to use any of these, by the way. We just riff through the ideas and see what we
yeah, the sensitive. Something that's keyed in kinda to the
Okay, so in
similar.
The Nosferatu example,
very similar on my side. I have the soulless, somebody who has had part of themselves taken by the monster. So for the record, James and whoever is on Twitch have just reached out across the internet space. So congrats to there. In some cultures, you'd be married. All right, what's up?
In Nosferatu, there is a 1-to-1 example for that. Again, spoilers for a 200-year-old story, where the primary female protagonist is like essentially soul bonded
legally
to
distinct
Nosferatu.
Meaning.
Yeah, exactly. Legally distinct. Meaning. So because of that connection, has a sense when things are happening, has a direct line of communication, like 9/10 of the movie with the vampire. So that would be, the sensitive. I think that works great.
Can I, just because I think the sensitive is a little bit of, it narrows the focus a little much, could we go with maybe the tainted or the touched or something?
Yeah. I think the tainted works.
All right. The cowboy, the professor, the urchin, the rake, and the tainted. I think we're really hitting the big characters here.
Yeah.
The scaredy cat.
Yeah.
The frightened...
Guys, I'm not gonna go in there.
It's over, man. It's all over.
Yeah.
Like, who is that? Is it the fraidy cat, the feared Shaggy from Scooby-Doo? Oh, no, wait, we really
the coward?
We did that again, by the way. Velma is the professor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really...
It's because they're all, Oh,
are they just...
It's the same characters all the way down.
I like the pitch that they are just the coward.
Yeah, the coward.
It's direct. I like it. Honestly, but I do have to say a good way to go through it here. So we've got so Shaggy would be the coward, Velma would be the professor, Fred would be the cowboy, and Daphne would be... I don't think we have Daphne on here yet. We don't. So is Daphne. Daphne's either the mundane, right? The sort of like an outside kind of character. And they are often in these stories. There is often a normal man. I'm thinking it's usually the guy who works for Wayland Yutani in the Alien movies, who works for the giant evil corporation.
Would it be like the witness? This is somebody who's just there to see that shit happen?
Oh my god! That was crazy. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna jot that one down.
And then who else?
The witness being our version of the normal, the mundane, I think is great. All right, that we only need to come up with one more. So try to tap into these movies, like reach into the corners of your mind here. We have the cowboy, we have the professor, we have the urchin, we have the rake, we have the tainted, we have the coward, and we have the witness. I think the tainted is pretty close to the one that I would feel is missing here, which is like the monstrous is like actually another monster, but I think the tainted in that could cross very easily, so I don't want to eat up a whole spot on that unless we feel like coming up with 3 more and getting to 10, which might be kind of too many.
Bobak has put the captain or businessman.
Yeah, kind of the I sometimes balk at having the kind of the leader is a trope in these kinds of TTRPGs, and I do tend to find it can get a little odd because it seems like that would emerge from sort of one character, but I do think it's a trope, and that's where we get the weirdness. I think Bobicus is totally right. There's always the leader, and they're just vaguely knowledgeable, like, you know what I mean? They are just sort of loosely in charge. But I do think it's kind of a weak archetype. Their job is to say, all right, we'll do what they just said. Like, all they do is listen to 9 ideas and then say one of them. So it's a little tenuous as a framework.
I could see the man with the plan. That's not the name we're going to use, obviously, but
I think
I don't know. I see the archetype working. If
all
we
right.
give it interesting
I'm
abilities.
happy to be vetoed. It's just I always find that it's one. I would say that usually it's just pick one of these, and they happen to be the leader. So the man with the plan to me is the professor that is also a leader. The man in charge is the cowboy who's also a leader. If it's like Aliens and the guy from Wayland Yutani's in charge, it's the witness is also the leader, and it's largely a sort of coincidental connection. Now wait a minute. We who's Sigourney Weaver? Sigourney Weaver doesn't quite feel like the witness. Do we want like the survivor? I've fought this beast before, or is that what the witness is?
The witness certainly wouldn't be that. The witness is more mundane than all that. I do think I've fought this beast before. It doesn't fall into the professor archetype, which I was a little bit worried about for a second, where it's like they know things. It's specifically knowing about this thing. And it's not tainted because it hasn't necessarily been affected in that more magical way.
It's Renfield.
I think that's good. Yeah.
Oh, see, maybe I am worried that it is a little too... I don't know. Well, obviously not all of these are in every story, but again, to me, it's Sigourney Weaver from
It would also
Aliens.
be Van Helsing.
It's Van Helsing, yeah.
Yeah, it's Van Helsing.
Ooh.
So I think we can do that.
You've just convinced me that it might just be the same thing as the Professor. I think it's just a subtype of the Professor, because you said Van Helsing, and I was like, yup, obviously. And what is the role of Sigourney Weaver's character? She knows about the monster and knows how it works. She's the Professor. All right, whatever. All right. In that case, can I make a push for the supernatural? Can I for one of them to be the monster, the supernatural, the broken, I don't know.
The creature.
The creature?
Yes.
This is
creature, the captive.
After so many years, I've tricked you into making Monster Squad the TTRPG. You fool! You've been bested.
What a solid movie.
Absolutely hilarious. With that, we have 6 teams and 8 survivors. So I think we have a choice to make here. We have a split in the road because we are cooking time-wise, right? We're playing until 9, and we have 43 more minutes, so we have lots of time. From here, we can either delve a little deeper into what we've come up with and start breaking down how each of these will work to some degree, Or we can move on to the B team and make, I assume, fewer teams and fewer kinds, and then move on to the C team, even less and even less.
Let's move on to the other teams.
Okay. Now, I will say, because we only had 6 teams, we might end up with like 4, 5, 6 for both of what follows, because we started a little on the low end. Because I really do think there's just not that many kinds of monster hunting parties. I really don't think there is, right? Because, again, so let's riffing through the list, because I do think this is a helpful exercise, right? I think most of the time in action horror, they are the pursuers, right? Because in my head, I'm Scooby-Doo, they are the pursuers. Dracula, they are the pursuers. Aliens, I think they're the hunters. What are some other? Alien, they're the survivors. What's funny is we've included the betrayed, which I think is like a really cool idea that I've absolutely never seen in fiction. So get in the comments now or in the future if you can think of a horror story where you are the cultists that have been betrayed or the sort of main character. I think that would be really cool. I would love to reference a book called The Fisherman right now, which connects to all of this, but I've been trying to get Spencer to read it for a long time, and if I spoil it, he's not going to read it, so I'm going to have to not say my example. It's a good one, man. You should read that book.
Hey, I can take the headphones off for a minute.
No, you're good, because I don't want to spoil it. For the record, The Fisherman by... Actually, let me pull up that name while we get talking about this next thing, because I love that book.
Bob said Frankenstein.
Now, interestingly, Frankenstein is more of a sci-fi story. It is essentially this game with one player and one GM, where the GM is playing Adam, Frankenstein's monster, and we have a professor trying to fight Adam, and is definitely a survivor because he basically just runs from that powerful boy there. So, for the record, the book is The Fisherman by John Langan. It's a really cool horror story that's like a tale within a tale. Now, I do feel the need to say, the exterior story is good. The interior story is fantastic. So unfortunately, towards the end of the book, when you return to the like current story, it is slightly disappointing, but only because of how good the middle is. Stan has said, Hunter meets betrayed like a pet turned against master. Yeah, I think that's a really good example of what we're kind of talking about here, Stan, is you could have the betrayed and the hunters. If you wanted to have two teams having some kind of like friction, it might be kind of fun to play one chapter as the hunters, play another chapter as the betrayed, and then kind of like push them into conflict. That's a good example of how you could kind of homebrew this to make something that maybe interests you a little bit more. It's kind of the same energy as being like our characters from last D&D campaign are the bad guys of this next one, which I think is pretty cool.
It rules every time.
An interesting one that I think matches in a weird way is Pet Sematary.
You know what's crazy? I've only seen bits and pieces of Pet Sematary. I've never actually watched the whole movie.
Not the old or the new one?
None of them.
Gotcha.
No,
I've seen bits and pieces of the old one. I've seen all of the new one.
But that works as a betrayed story?
Not quite as a betrayed. I don't know what you would consider it, but it feels like it's in the right area-ish.
Stephen King is tough.
Yes,
it's always a big ask. All right, so it's time to move on to teams of researchers. Yes. So I think we've nailed already.
No, it is betrayal because the father buries the child in the cemetery and they come back.
I would argue that's the penitent then.
I would say it's the betrayed because they did it on purpose. The penitent is we cracked open a tomb and we unleashed the thing inside.
Yeah,
this is no. I drew a big pentagram with blood. I just didn't
think it was gonna be this bad.
Hellraiser is the betrayed. You find the cube, you do the cube, everything that happens as a result is terrible, and you feel the need to try to save yourself despite that. Pretty good. All right. Ooh, another good trope call out from Stan, although I'm not sure where it would fit in. Came back wrong. Somebody's brought back Ron, which is what Pet Cemetery is playing with. I think is another solid addition. So researcher teams. Let's dive in before we get too distracted off in the weeds here. So we already said a few, right? We had this idea of being like the anthropologists or the studying the ancient world, right? What was that? Archaeologists.
Archaeologists, yeah. Archaeologists. There's the researcher team being monster specific is something.
Is my only fear is archaeologists we think a little too specific, just because I'm thinking the Delver is like one step back.
I think that's good. I'd say the Delver. I could see a governmental institution. So this would be something like, the FBI or CIA is doing this research, or it could be something as specific as like in Hellboy. I can never remember the name. The
BPRD, the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense.
Yeah.
So
I was about to say the DPRD.
So the correct. Delvers, and then is number 2 the agency?
Yeah.
Agency works.
All right, so we have the Delvers, we have the agency, which I'm gonna put the agency / the team. Because it's not like they're playing the entire agency. They are playing like some arm of it. So maybe the team would be another way to capture that. It's not as evocative. It's not. Yeah. So I don't know.
And then there's just... Go ahead.
Sorry. The journalists?
So this would... What are we hitting? What's the archetype?
Let me just chime into chat here really quick. Yes, Stan, you missed our last... I try to do recaps every like 20 minutes while we're on this stream. We are making a Forged in the Dark game, which is when you use the base SRD for Blades in the Dark to try to kind of build onto it and make a new game. Originally, we were thinking about trying to make something wholesale, and then thankfully Spencer's description aligned really well with Forged in the Dark, and so we didn't need to do all that. Making a full game system takes years, in a way that hacking a game that already works really well takes much less time and is a little bit easier to do, for instance, on a stream that people watch. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What were you saying?
That's okay.
It was about... Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just I said journalists, and then you were asking to what point?
Yeah, what would they be doing? Like, how would a journalist team? Would it be like investigators? Is that what you mean? Like photojournalists?
I think that's the broader. It almost feels like there's a category that encapsulates both of those.
Yeah.
The detective and the journalist, and then like
I'm thinking like Private Eye, but that's not exactly accurate. It's the dogged investigator.
Investigator
is kind of the thing.
Investigators. Yeah. So
I
Delvers, agents, investigators.
And we would say, like in the drop down, could be a news reporter on the case, or it could be an actual private eye hired to investigate. And then it gives a bunch of the different descriptions for it.
Sure.
So with that, who would be... I would say the next might be like actual researchers. So that would be people that are hitting the books, hitting the stacks. Because we've got, the dig site folk, we've got the agency, but we don't have like the smart guys.
It's a college club that's trying to just get some extra credit.
Exactly. Yeah, the smart guys. There's a college club. There's a group of professors. There's researchers at an Antarctic base.
Oh, okay.
Whatever it is.
So because we have them broadly as... So what I will say then is I will offer a switch. Either we should keep these teams being called researchers, and this would be the scholars, or the teams are called the scholars, and these are the researchers. Do we have a preference of swap there?
I think we would call these guys the scholars.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. Because the private eye, I feel, doesn't fit as well in with scholar. So I think it works better for it.
Yeah, so we have the Delvers, the agents, the investigators, the scholars. Can we think of anything else? We're at 4.
Oh,
so we either should stop here or come up with 2 more.
Bobcus put up the cult.
Yeah, competing, right? This comes up in a lot of cosmic horror, where it's like, what's one of the continuing tropes is we're trying to keep these people from summoning Yog-Sothoth. So you know what we'll do? Like, we'll speak the name of another elder god there, and that'll
scare him off.
That is actually how one of, I won't spoil which one, that is how one of those stories ends. A guy is trying to interrupt the ceremony and it doesn't work, and this like private investigator who we have seen a bunch runs in and starts yelling the names of other elder gods, and it calls their attention enough that it disrupts the ritual. That's how one of those stories ends. So I think it's kind of perfect.
B team jump for the win of the day on one of these stories. And the last one I would put in would be, if we can say now, would be like the religious.
What was the one right before that though?
Before what?
You said the last.
The occult.
So for 6. Okay. Oh, so the occult and the religious? That's pretty close.
I would argue that they fulfill different functions. That's all I'm saying.
You know what? I think I buy it, because you know what it is to me, and I think this is pretty valid. I think the occult is right and the religious is wrong.
Yeah, you know.
Right? I think the occult is like, we think it's this weird thing, and everybody's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And then it's like the religious are like, this is a demon from hell. And it's like, I mean, probably not, but go off, King. Like, you know, yeah. I think you've got it.
And if you, like, are you fighting Dracula? The holy water's gonna work. So having the religious underneath works.
Something we might want to do for one of our B team options. Stan is going crazy in the chat over here. He said scribe. I think that would be a great example of a researcher is the scribe. The person that keeps the journal when they die in the B team thing. We find their bloody journal later. It's so funny to think that in a lot of these games where you just find the bloody journal, in this one, you play the people that die and leave the bloody journal behind to pass that information to your characters. That's really fun. I think that's pretty cool. All right, so we have the Delvers, the Agents, the Investigators, the Scholars, the Occult, and the Religious. I think that's pretty solid.
We got a comment
in? Yeah. James said, the Visionary, a psychic who is linked only to the monster's victims, which I like. But the one that got me was the Tattooed, a frat bro whose tattoos unnervingly predict how people will die.
Hell yeah, brother.
Probably, you know what that would be? So we, when you are playing something like Blades in the Dark, so you have a character type, like the Hound is sort of a long-distance assaulter. They can get abilities. I think one of the abilities they could get would be prophetic. You know, you can see glimpses of the future, and a fun way to describe that ability when eventually, right, your tale-teller is like, how does that work? If you were like, I'm covered in tattoos that unnervingly predict death, they'd be
I got Maui'd.
I got Moana. You ever seen Moana? It's a lot like Moana. It's hysterical. The thought that, honestly, though, you know, automatic writing, where people like in a trance will automatically write. The thought that the only way that they can use their psychic powers is like automatic tattooing with a gun. Oh. Like they need the blood sacrifice for it to work. Goes crazy.
All right, super sick.
Okay.
Yeah. Bob put up Madman, Artist, Psychic. Those are all definitely good, I'd say, playbook.
Yeah, and they would, a bunch of, like, the Madman would fall into, like, the Wronged, probably.
Yeah, so let's start there then, because that's obviously what we should do next. Now, we had 10 or 8? We had 8 Survivor archetypes, so I think that we should either end up with 866 or 864. And keep the
I think 864 is good. I feel like you don't need a lot because this
I think it would be symmetrical. I don't know if it's actually going to work out because 4 is so limited. 4 is like incredibly narrow. All right.
So for this group, the Expendables as they are.
Well, we're still in the researchers. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
Researchers.
Yeah, we got to come up with 6 our 6 sort of playbooks for the researchers, and we've already thrown a lot of ideas out.
I thought because we didn't do playbooks for a team, we just went from
the cowboy, the professor, the urchin, the rake, the tainted, the coward, the witness, and the creature. What did you think we were talking about?
I just ignore.
Just went through. So we need 6.
Yeah, 6 would be just a good round number for us to have. We've definitely That's true. Stannis said you got to wait if it'll be watered down if you add too many extras on the C team. Fair point. A riposte from the audience. I think that's fair. So we have this idea of the psychic. We've whipped that around a few times. It's come up in both of our sort of comment sections. I think that some version of that would work great for the researchers, right? For the sort of again, B team people that you get information from. I think it wouldn't mix super well with having the tainted, but I think that you just wouldn't have that crossover, right? Most likely if you have an A team member that is working with psychic powers, you're not going to want a B team character that does.
And you could, because it would be like they would be communicating in some ways. That's how they're getting the information from B to A team is with their psychic and their psychic. There are plays for it. I would call it like the attuned for the psychic people here.
Yeah, you know what I like about that is if you wanted to play this in a more fantasy setting, the attuned is a little more neutral in a way that the psychic is like really specific. I think that is essentially what we're getting at, but you got to broaden a little bit when you were sort of doing these. And I think that it covers a lot of different things, right? Okay. So we have the tuned, and then what are some other ones? We had the idea of like the scribe, right? The like really stereotypical scholarly character, somebody that's sort of the journal keeper. Do we like the scribe? Do we like the journalist? Oh wait, that doesn't work.
I think
that'll be confusing.
I think the scribe works.
Okay.
Who else?
We have the attuned. We have the scribe. I think some version of the scientist.
Yeah.
Right, the person that gets all their glass vials out and mixes things and drops some blood into it and sees if it changes color.
The alchemist. Yeah.
Scientist, alchemist, do we need a broader term?
I think scientist is fine for now, and we can come back to it.
You know, I'll put a little cross on it. It depends on if we want to sort of lock it down in a time period. Which I don't think we do, but we should leave the option open.
There's the idea of like the old grizzled person that I could see going in here. He that knows just because of the lived experience. It's like the age.
Yeah, okay. The grizzled is good, the world weary. I'm getting like the picture of what you're going for here.
Yeah. I think we can put the weary in.
Ooh, the weary.
Because the description.
The weary's fun. Bob's put the extrasensory or the inhuman.
Definitely, I do think the attuned has grokked you, has scooped you. I think the attuned is covering a lot of the same ground there. All right, so let's walk through it slow and think about any tropes that we're missing, big character archetypes that we are into that aren't present. So we have the attuned. This is somebody who's using whatever your story's version of magic is to get an edge on doing this research. We have the scribe, somebody who's keeping detailed notes that can be found later by the party should the worst happen. We have the scientist, somebody that will actually set up the chemicals, test the things, and see what the situation is. We have the weary, somebody who has seen many things and knows much, but no longer has the will to fight. And then two more.
The hungry. This is the person who is doggedly pursuing answers. This is like, I'm going here even if nobody else thinks it's a good idea. I'm gonna get that picture of Dracula, assholes.
Oh, that's good. And then I think our last one should be, because it is such a trope, we're gonna have to be a little delicate with our handling here. I don't want to be insensitive. I do think is some version of the madman, the person that has been driven beyond the brink of sanity. Sort of reading, again, cosmic horror, where you are reading from the perspective of a character who is already lost, in a way, I think would be pretty effective. I'm drawing on words like the warped, the warped, the broken. It's awfully close to the weary, though.
I think it's different because they're broken by the specific circumstance. The weary have just gotten enough of life that they're going to have answers that the other people don't.
Fine.
So I see the broken. Sorry.
We kind of did before, but I feel like it matches so well. The enlightened for this guy. He's so mad that he knows
calling
the truth.
The crazy person the enlightened is pretty fun.
I think we have done that once before.
We did,
and we'll do it again because it works every time.
Freak DM Brain, we had the Enlightened was a faction in Galaxy Blocker, our Spelljammer riff that we came up with last year. The Enlightened had begun to pray to the outer gods and discovered that they were very real. And so the problem with them wasn't that they were wrong, it's that they were completely correct and worshipping evil beings from beyond the universe. And so that's where we had that.
I think the Enlightened is great. They're scrawling the truth on the walls, but it is in their own blood, so people are not going to believe them.
All right, I think that's really... Okay, so far, we have 6 teams of survivors, and we have 8 archetypes of survivors. And then we have 6 teams of researchers, and then we have 6 archetypes of researchers. And so now we are on to the C Squad. Now we are on to the sort of... these are the truly ill-fated...
The red shirts.
Expendable, almost certainly not going to sort of survive, right?
The fodder.
So my first thought when we came to this was that one of these would be the Doomed. I don't know. So to me, my first thought was the Doomed it is an absolutely foregone conclusion. You are just trying to eke out as much as you can. Like, there is absolutely zero hope. You're just trying to do whatever you can to sort of get the upper hand for other people. This is kind of the, like, the plane is already crashing, what do we do? Right? Kind of angle is my first thought.
I think the Doomed is solid. I would put the Authorities below that. You know, you go and knock on the door of the sheriff's house and say, something terrible's happening. And then he gets the deputies rassled up, and they're going to go check it out. They might be able to get out of it.
In a book I'm reading right now, there was an entire chapter. I'm reading a horror book right now. There was an entire chapter that was just them introducing 3 new police officers just for them to all immediately die. And then cut back to the main characters. I was like, I read it and I was like, that's wild that we stumbled on that while
Stephen
working
King
on
thing
this.
to do right there.
Yeah. All right, so we have the Doomed, we have the Authorities.
Do we want, like, the Martyr?
I feel like the Martyr would fall under the Doom.
I think probably one of the archetypes is the Martyr.
Yeah.
And that's that archetype that gets, when you die, the A team gains hope.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I don't know what we would call this, but it's something like the Scorned. It's like a family member that is there just to kick the living shit out of whatever took his family.
Oh, so kind of like
the Enraged is what I would hit him with.
In Monster of the Week, it's the Wronged.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that works.
The Vengeful, the Punisher.
The Punishers. I think the Vengeful's fine. And there's another one which is like the Crew. This is like the logging company is out in the woods that the lycanthrope is hunting.
Yeah.
So they need to try and survive and maybe get out of this with a couple licks in.
So the Doomed, the Authorities, the Vengeful, and the Crew. Do we have any other ideas, or do we want to stop at 4? Because if we come up with 2 more, that would be fine. Any more than that would probably not be the best idea. But right now we have 6, 6, 4. So if we could get to having 2 more, that might not be a bad idea. I do think we've covered most of them. Right? It is either Authorities that aren't going to do well, it's the Doomed that are already gone, it's the Vengeful that aren't concerned with their own safety, and it's the Crew that have been swept up in the madness of what is happening. I can't easily think of another 2. The only other ones I would think of are pretty close to the Crew would be the Bystanders or something along those lines.
That'd be fun. You just play a bystander. just something that has innate good, and that makes you like, just gotta do something.
The inevitable hack of the game is starting as a group of passersby and elevating all the way up to an actual character.
I think I'm going to add it. I think I'm going to add the bystanders, people that see something happening and step in, because I think it's also the easiest one to do. Is if one of your characters is dying in an alleyway, it's very easy to be like, C team, I'm a bystander on the street. Somebody else is like, the man at the fruit market takes his hat off. He has tattoos on his arms. Another is like, you see a gang member flick out a switchblade from the dark, and they immediately are in the scene.
We don't take kindly to people with fangs in this neighborhood.
Guys, you know what this is? This is the people on the bridge in Spider-Man who were like, that guy's a hero.
Yeah, exactly.
They just instantly appear. All right, so we should come up with one more then. We have the Doomed, the Authorities, the Vengeful, the Crew, the Bystanders, and then we need one more.
This could be...
I have a stupid one, which is the character who is very confident and competent and dies in the first 5 seconds.
I feel like that's the Doomed.
Samuel L. Jackson in Deep Blue Sea, who is like,
that
we're gonna get...
funny.
and then dies and gets dragged down into a water pit. What were you about to say, though? Because your idea might cover it. And Michael does have a good point. I am talking about the Doomed a little.
Mine would be the Imprisoned. It is still similar to the Doomed. But these are people that are already wrapped up in whatever the situation is. They're locked up in Dracula's castle. They are already... No, Doomed would be already bit by, like,
no, I think
the
Doomed... The Doomed
like
is like those dudes on the boat in Dracula.
Yeah.
Where it's
You're
like,
cooked.
We're trying to hurt it just sort of because it seems like the thing to do. I do think this is a little bit different. So like the trapped, the imprisoned. All right, I think that's interesting. You know what I like about it is I think you framed up the perfect use case, which is you are in Dracula's castle and you get in trouble, and then you hear a loud sound and a guy in a loincloth like swings around the corner like, we have been freed, brothers! Die with me now! Die! And just starts screaming like what's King Theoden? Death! Death! Like, it's too good.
A terrible play for the Imprisoned, from like the player standpoint, would be the monster's here and it's going to kill you, and you're like, it already ate today. One of the Imprisoned, my Imprisoned is dead, but I get to live because it's not hungry enough to eat me.
Hysterical, I love it. Your character is downgraded to the C team. Okay, and so now we are trying to come up with real bare bones 4 playbooks. Just 4.
Okay.
Can we break this? Can we break them down into 4 archetypes? Because it doesn't matter if you play like multiple people of the same kind, right? It just needs to be the archetypes. My first thought is the violent.
The violent works. I was gonna say the foolhardy.
We have to. We have to.
We gotta put the foolhardy in. Am I right? Chat, say if I'm right or not. Yeah, foolhardy, the violent.
And the violent isn't necessarily like... Yeah, there's just kind of always...
Stupid.
The stupid. Oh,
Yeah.
can we just
Somebody's got to open up the coffin on the ship, you know?
Is it the stupid? Is it the gullible? The stupid feels a little on the nose, even with...
Yeah.
And that's coming from the guy who pitched the cowboy. Like...
We can do the gullible.
The dullard.
Who else? What are we missing? There's the guy that blows themselves up, the guy that opens the coffin, and the guy that's willing to put their neck on the line.
Yeah,
We've
so
got all those.
I think the guy that blows himself... Oh, the martyr. All right, so we're almost done. All right, so we have the martyr, which is the guy that pulls the pins on the grenades and grabs onto the predator and tackles him down into a valley. We have the violent, which is man with knife or machete or gun. This is another one of these characters that is really consistent. We have the foolhardy, which is this character who believes earnestly at every moment that survival is possible. And then,
which I did get verification from chat. I am correct.
You got one on my side
good.
too. James was like, James was in. All right. Now we need one more: the foolhardy, the violent, the martyr, and I'm thinking of again. Unfortunately, we've already used the coward.
The coward, yeah. It could be the trepidatious. This is somebody who's trying to pull back and not necessarily fully engage until they have to. But I don't know. These guys are meant to throw down, bare knuckle style, basically exclusively.
What would you call? Have you guys seen any of Love, Death, and Robots? The like anthology
Michael
series.
has.
Do you know the one where on the ship with that big crab monster underneath, and that one guy does the like 4D chess maneuver to save that island? I'm trying to think of what is like a hyper-driven, hyper-proficient, like one of my favorite versions of this trope outside of horror is Jack Reacher, who just seems to save the world by being large. He uses his power of muscular to solve every just his pecs save the world like 9 times in his series. I'm just trying to think of what that character is.
The Squared Away, some shit like that. The Professional.
Professional. The first thing, it doesn't work, but the Vox Machina.
The Vox Machina would be hilarious, but they kind of all are.
James has pitched the hysterical The Alpha.
Oh, the Alpha.
I think I'm in. I think it's the Alpha.
That's so
I think James
funny.
nailed it.
All right, we're going with the Alpha.
I love that. I want to play. Can I say something? I think this is the best RPG we've come up with. Not the whole thing. Just
this
kidding.
Part?
Are the doomed, the authorities, the vengeful, the crew, the bystanders, the imprisoned, and your options are the foolhardy, the violent, the martyr, and the alpha is hysterical. The thought of being like, "What's up? We're for the alphas." It's so funny. It's just too funny.
You all instantly the doomed 4 alphas.
4 alphas. We're bringing this ship home. It's just insanity. Oh, that's fantastic. That made me laugh so hard I'm sweating. Oh my gosh, that was really good. That was really good. Okay. Wow, I cannot believe how quick we zipped through that, and we managed to do the 864 thing, which I think is gonna work really well to our sort of advantage there. Let me get my note sheets in order here, revealing to our viewers that I am a terrible nerd and that I use a little legal pad.
Do we think it would
just
be...
a gaggle of chads. Damn right, Stan. Just a gaggle of chads. What do you call a roving flock of chads? Are they a gaggle? I hope so. All right, so we've got like 11 minutes on the clock. Do we have anything else that we feel like we can sort of bite into here? If not, it might be in our best interest to do a bit and cut a little bit early, just because I can't think of something that'll only take 10.
Here's the bit that I'm gonna pitch, and say no if it's too boring because it might take too long. What if we random roll up one of these teams as if us 3 are playing?
Sorry, we've got a little. I'm frozen on.
I thought it was me at first.
Nope, it's just me. Let me. Just 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. Something has gone wrong.
It's the same on stream, but it's all good. I'm pretty sure everybody can still hear. So.
Okay. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna go on. You're gonna see the bio break screen. We're not going anywhere. I'm just gonna go bio break, turn my camera off and then on, and then hop back in. So we don't even really need to stop talking or anything.
Yeah, it's all good. So my idea is we roll these up. We have to get a D6 for the team, and then we each need to have a D6 and a D4 for our individual characters. You're good.
We were cursed by Dracula. All right, so do you want to roll up survivors, or are you trying to roll up like a full roster?
A full roster.
All right, so everybody get. I say everybody. You at home don't need to get dice out if you don't want to.
But if you want to, and you've got them handy, roll them up and tell us what you get as well. Yeah, I've got my D6 and I got my D4.
Sorry, I'm just trying to reach over to my jam here. I've got. Do we need a D8? I think we do.
Do we have an 8 person?
Yes,
squad?
we have 8.
Is that our initial? Okay, cool. So
864.
We've got all those.
All right. So, which of the 3 of us wants to roll the A team? Who wants to roll the B team? And who wants to roll the C team? Like type, like the whole team.
I will roll the A team.
All right, I'll roll the B team. Michael, you want to roll the C team?
We got C team.
Awesome.
So
okay. So Spencer, you go up first.
Stan, you got a great point. Who here doesn't have dice? If you're watching this stream and you don't have dice, You're in deep enough, commit to it. Go buy some dice.
I do know some people that are D&D that are exclusive online rollers, and I think that is just bananas.
What a sad half-life.
What a grim fate.
Full of dice.
Same hat. Mine's... Oh, you can't see mine anymore because my camera got moved a little bit here. Okay, so, Spencer, what is our... So, D6 for our team of survivors. What are they?
D6 was a 4.
The Innocent.
Ooh.
It's a coming-of-age story.
That'll be interesting for the other teams, because then
be.
we've got Stranger Things vibes, where it's like, no,
Right.
there are adults here, it's just not you.
For the researchers, we have the Delvers. A fun mix. All right, and then Michael, D6 for the C team.
That's 4.
Number 4 for the Expendables is the Crew. I'm seeing a pretty clear picture here. I'm getting like Appalachian mining town hard from this one. That's what I'm getting. All right. Do we want to also roll up characters, or do we just want to riff off of...
let's hit characters real quick.
Yeah, we've got time. So it sounds like where we're at right now, our actual A team are a group of innocents. These are younger or otherwise unrelated people that are driven into the situation and decide they have to do the right thing. I just noticed how blue my tongue is. Our researchers are the Delvers, people that go into these old or terrifying places looking for the truth at pretty much any cost. And our expendable group is the Crew. They are miners or loggers or something. They are a group of people that were already united that have been thrust into this awful situation. So let's start with our survivor archetypes. I think each of us just rolls once, so everybody roll a d8.
A 5.
I also rolled a 5. I'll roll again.
Fair enough.
2.
Okay, so we are a professor is the 2. The tainted is the 5. And the witness is the 7. That's a fun trio.
I'm Will Byers. I got Will Byers.
That's really good. I like that. So we're so one of us is this like hyper knowledgeable character. So among the innocent, one of us knows a lot about what's going on. Another one is connected directly to what is going on, and a third is just kind of along for the ride, trying to make sense of things and protect their friends. I think that's awesome. All right. Up next are the Delvers. For the Delvers, we each roll a d6. Stan, there isn't a Discord. We've thought about it. Maybe we'll get there.
Yeah, not at this point. We do have the community page, like on the YouTube channel. I think people can comment on there, but maybe we'll draft one up.
I am for the Delvers. I have rolled the Attuned.
I got a 6.
So we ended up with an Attuned and a Tainted.
Yeah.
With the 6, we have the Enlightened.
The Attuned. So it's like the kid is the son of one of the miners who's trapped in there. And he's getting these mental images of what's going on in the mine.
Dude, that is so perfect. All right, Michael, what'd you roll?
4.
4, the Weary. So down in the mines, we have one of the dads that can feel a connection with their children. We have this old man who's like, I know these tunnels well. And then we have the Enlightened, one of them already starting to crack at the edges, hearing whispers in the dark. And now finally, our C team.
D4, right?
Yeah, D4. And we can double up on the C team.
Nah.
1.
3.
4.
Oh, wow.
So we are this is a perfect combination. We are a foolhardy, a martyr, and an alpha. All right, so I know exactly what this is. All right, so I guess this is going to be a version of... So one of our bits is called You Say, They Say, I Say, where we each roll dice and we determine what order that we go in. And usually we come up with a monster and a location, and then the third person has to come up with the adventure hook, like for Dungeons and Dragons. In this case, I think we have this in front of us. We have this sort of assembled team, and I think I am going to volunteer because we've already done most of the work. So our A team are the children's and relations of this group of people that have been trapped beneath in this caved-in mine, and they know that something supernatural is going on because one of them is tainted. One of them played in the mine as a child and has heard voices ever since. The professor, one of their friends who has studied cryptids of the areas, knows about their friend's ailment, and the witness, their third friend that just wants to go to the arcade in town and be normal, is dragged in by their connection. One of the tainted's probably parents is the attuned. We have this person that they are connected with below, that they are able to speak with, who are joined by the weary, this like old salt of the earth miner who is past his prime, maybe the foreman, and the enlightened, somebody that is already starting to slip and hear the echoes of the cavern. And then we have the crew hired to go down and get them out. We have a foolhardy, a martyr, and an alpha. We have like one of the heads of the crew, one of his boys, and probably another slightly more distant and therefore less sad relative in the form of the martyr, who are going to try to go down to free the researchers. And everything is going to converge in one of these mines as we sort of whip up. I'm going to call this just an unmitigated success. This is
that
awesome.
rips.
All right. With that, thank you all so much for watching. This was an absolute blast. This might be our last time talking about Tales in the Dark, unless we want to go into talking about the abilities of these individual classes and playbooks. That would mean we would be keeping this series going for really quite a while. So I'm not sure how we are going to slant on that. We'll talk about that off stream. If there was anything here that you missed that you really wanted to hear about our thought process, you can absolutely go back and watch our other 2 DM writers' rooms. Inevitably, when we start writing things up to make these games something that you can get a hold of and, get a hold of and play, we will end up having to watch back to everything anyway. So you'll end up probably watching along with us if by accident. You can catch 3 streams on Foolhardy Press. They are Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays, and they all start at 7:30. On Sundays, from 7:30 to about 10, you can catch Game Masters, Masters of Games, where the 3 of us that you see here play games that we either have already mastered or are trying to. We've been playing Baldur's Gate, Castle Crashers, Elden Ring. We're talking about playing some other stuff this upcoming week. We haven't settled on anything just yet, but always new things coming out, unfortunately, for $70, which just seems like a lot. I'm just saying that's a price hike I'm not happy with. On Mondays, you can catch The Party Makes Things Worse. That's our actual play stream. The last show that we ran was Spencer running Monster of the Week. He did The Prince of Charming, which was very fun. And currently, I am running in Dungeons & Dragons, a game called Song of the Reliquary that takes place in the world of Prospect, which we came up with live on DM Writers Room. I think it's the first thing we ever did on DM Writers Room, so that is way back in the analogs there. And then, of course, on Tuesdays, you can catch DM Writers Room, where we demystify the DMing process by coming up with monsters, magic items, adventures, game systems, hacks, and all kinds of fun stuff live. Check us out on itch.io, where you can get our first one-page RPG, which we came up with on this show. The Last Thanksgiving, a turkey-tinged tale of vengeance. And soon you'll be able to catch Resonance, the second one-page RPG we came up with. A mech RPG for 3 to 5 players to learn to act as one, which was a real joy. On Drive-Thru RPG, you can catch The Lich's Dollhouse. That is our level 1 adventure that we wrote almost 2 years ago now. That is, I still think, a bucket of fun. There's some fun low CR monsters that you can fight and a couple of fun puzzles there. Catch us out on YouTube and TikTok. Spencer makes all kinds of great stuff there. He just posted a few videos recently, and he has a couple more in the hopper that we're pretty excited about. Like and subscribe. Did I miss anything?
That's everything.
Alrighty. Thank you all so much for watching. We will catch you on the next one. Peace out.
Peace out, y'all. Thank